afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the GNCC's Lunch and Learn. My name is Hugo Cheshire, and it's my great privilege to be your host for the next hour. Our topic today is an enormously important one: how to get your website to work for you. A website is so much to any business or any organization. It's a storefront, a billboard, a suggestion box, a directory listing, a trade show booth, an ad spot, and so much more. And it's one of the most important assets that any business has. Getting it right is crucial, but getting it right is a lot of work. And as with all things in business, you need to make sure that you are getting more out of it than you put in. And that's what our experts today are going to show you. But first, before we get into that, a word from our very generous sponsor, the YMCA of Niagara. The YMCA has made today's session possible, and I'd like to turn things over for a moment to Iris Corrales from the Y to tell you a little bit more about what they do. Iris, over to you.
Thank you so much, Hugo. So good morning, everybody. Welcome, or good afternoon. I hope everybody's enjoying this lovely sunny day. It's a little bit chilly, but at least the sun is out. So that's great. As Hugo said, my name is Iris, and I work with the YMCA Employment and Immigrant Services. We have two offices for your convenience. We have one in Niagara Falls on Lundy's Lane, and we have one in St. Catharines on Bunting Road, 285 Bunting Road. And here we provide over 11 programs for newcomers, job seekers, and also employers and small businesses. So mainly we work with newcomers and job seekers who are looking to get into the labor force, but we also work with employers who are looking for help trying to acquire that talent out there. So we're great matchmakers. If you have any questions, come on down and check us out. I won't take too much more of your time, as I'm excited to hear the presentation as well. So again, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and excited about what's ahead.
Thank you so much, Iris. We're so fortunate to have the YMCA as a steadfast partner in our Lunch and Learn sessions, but also as a partner to businesses in Niagara. If you're looking for talent, your next hire could be waiting for you at the YMCA, so check them out. Now we're on to the main part of today's session. I'm very pleased to introduce our experts. First is Jess Boulay, Vice President of Giant Shoe Creative Agency. Jess brings over 20 years of expertise in graphic and user interface design, web development, marketing, and project management. Recognized for leadership and innovation, Jess is passionate about finding creative solutions for businesses and teams. Joining Jess today is the web supervisor at Giant Shoe, Chris Wilmering. Chris brings his varied experience in hospitality, municipal operations, recreation, and design to build responsive, search-optimized websites with a measurable impact tailored to your business's needs. This is going to be a great session. I'm really looking forward to it. We are going to be taking questions, so please type your questions into the chat. I will see them, and I'll put as many of them as I can to Jess and Chris in the time that we have today after the presentation is over. Your questions are anonymous, so please speak freely. And now, without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Chris and Jess for what is going to be an amazing and insightful presentation. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us. I'm just going to quickly share my screen and then we will get started. Perfect. Thank you so much for having us. And yeah, we're going to be speaking about making your website work for you. Chris, you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, so today we're going to be going over a few key topics. The first one is the big one, search engine optimization. What is it? What does it mean? And how do you do it? Landing pages, what are they? What are they good for? And lead generation, which is activating your website to actually get those quality leads.
Yes, and first, just a little bit about us. We've been in business for since 2012, and we are a full-service agency located here downtown St. Catharines on James Street. We specialize in production, websites, ad spending, PPC, and did I miss anything really?
We do it all.
Yes.
If there's something your business needs that falls under marketing, this is the place to get it.
Absolutely. So here's our leadership team. So obviously Chris and I are on this session, but you may recognize Brad and Lucas. And if you don't recognize them, you probably have seen their work around doing some of the multiple production jobs we've done here in St. Catharines and for the region. But now let's get into it. So it stands for search engine optimization. All right, so we are looking at a lot of different descriptions here, or items on our slide. Do you think a few of them are considered search engine optimization efforts? Actually, every single one of them is. So search engine optimization, although it kind of has been a jargon term, it's the umbrella or the wide-ranging definition of multiple efforts that are focused on getting you a higher page rank on search engine platforms.
And not just search engine platforms like Google and Bing. We're also talking about optimizing for AI LLMs like ChatGPT or Copilot, as well as social media, right? People are not just going to Google to ask questions. People are going on Reddit. People are going on Facebook. And we want to make sure that your content and your business is showing up everywhere that people are searching.
Yeah. And the key to search engine optimization is consistency. This isn't a one-time effort and then you're set for the next little bit. The algorithm, which is what these platforms, their secret code on how they choose to rank you, is constantly being updated and changing. Your competitors are also changing their efforts on what keywords or efforts they're focusing on. So you have to stay always on with your SEO efforts in order to keep that page rank up or to keep improving your page rank. So, and also, and another reason why one and done isn't the solution, a very important part of page rank and being rewarded is for fresh content. So you do constantly have to generate new content is a part of how the algorithm reads that your website should be shown.
We will get into this in more detail, but even just this morning, Google published a core update, which means that their algorithm has turned on its head. If you are already paying attention to your SEO results, you might have seen something a little scary over the past 2 weeks. It's been one of the most volatile times for ranking and for search engines within the Google sphere over the past couple of weeks, I think in years. And what we do as marketers and what we do as SEOers is work with other marketers and with other SEOers to see what's working, what's not, and what can change.
Mm-hmm. And one of the main reasons why this changes is they don't want people to capitalize on something that's getting one effort that's getting a higher rank, and that's all they do. The whole point of the algorithms is to organically read how a customer would want to engage with your content, and they're constantly learning and updating to ensure that a customer is getting the best experience, and they have to constantly update their algorithm to make sure that's happening.
So how is it done? Well, it starts with knowing who you're optimizing for.
Mm-hmm.
If you target everyone, you're a little bit targeting no one. What we need to do is find a specific singular goal for your website and for your content, and then find creative and conversion-based ways to go about it.
Yep. All right, so who's your SEO for? The most important thing is when you get started with SEO efforts, you have to know your audience. You need to base these keywords or efforts that you're doing based on knowing who it is. You have to research and be aware before you get started. So some common things that you should know is your location, that you're targeting, your demographic things like age, salary, language, and be aware of industry trends and also niches. So you'd be surprised. There might be one big topic or search that everybody searches for, but there's quality in finding the little tinier segments and niching in on those keywords or on those different avenues, because that might not be something that your competition is actually honed in on, and you can have a whole avenue that no one else is touching on how to bring in different potential clients for you.
And when we're developing that content, we're looking at that audience, like we've said, and identifying the needs that they have. We want to be finding what they're searching for, what questions they're asking, and then finding out how your business answers them. But especially with sensitive businesses, sensitive industries, maybe it's healthcare or finance or law, you have to be aware of the consequences of bad content. Bad content is stuff that is going to steer these people in the wrong direction. If you're putting out information on taxes and you're steering people in the wrong direction, all of a sudden, you might have really hurt a potential customer. So in favor of making more content, make better content that is helping, content that is answering questions, and that is fulfilling the expertise that you have.
Yeah, and another thing to add on that is certain things like the financial industry, insurance. Some of these things are highly regulated, and there are certain things you can and can't say. So you must be aware that when you are starting to produce content, that you're following the guidelines that are for that industry. All right, so let's get into some simple tweaks to boost your visibility. So there's things that you can do right on the web page that can increase SEO. So using keyword-rich titles and meta descriptions, you cover headers.
Yeah, when search engines are going through your website, they're taking a look at things in order, right? So your H1 tag is usually the title of the page or the very first language that's on the tag, and it does need to be properly tagged in the back end. You can't just put words on the top of your page, but maybe I'm getting a little too technical. What we're looking at is things like an About Us page that says About Us at the top. The information that the search engine is seeing first is those words. So when we're looking at building content that properly adheres to these, we want to make sure that these tags in order are covering the most helpful information. A page on financing at the top might want to say helpful information on financing or how to file your taxes instead of having that buried, halfway down.
Yeah. And then putting links in between pages on your website that bring you from one page on your website to another. This increases your viewer to the visitor to stay on your website, and longer times that people spend on your website increases your chance of being ranked as well. We've already covered this before, but fresh content is always important. Another thing that is checked for when getting crawled by, like, say, a Google web crawler is how fast your website loads onto their screen. So some common mistakes that people make is they're not compressing their images. Our technical developer always creates a firm rule. It really shouldn't be over 100 kilobytes uploaded to your website. We've gone in and refreshed some clients' websites where they actually had 1 megabyte images loading. That's going to drag your load speed, and it's going to impact how you rank. Making sure that you have alt tags on your images, and that's just descriptive or keywords that are describing your images. Fix broken links. They create errors and alerts on the crawler, and make sure your website's mobile friendly. That also is something that's checked. Also, there are some things that you can do in terms of localization or off page that help you rank. If you do not have a Google business profile, you should set one up right away. Google is one of the largest search engines, and it's something that they look for when they're helping you with page rank. And another thing is to use local keywords. So for example, you should be putting in Niagara, if we're here, Niagara or whatever city or township, onto your page for your web pages. For example, if I put in Niagara dentist and someone will search dentist near me, that will help rank. And also if someone's searching dentist in, say, Font Hill, it's going to show Font Hill dentist in the area, and having that local township listed is going to help you. See if you can get listed on local directories, and share your content to your socials as well. All right.
Landing pages.
Yep.
So landing pages. Landing pages require focus on your target audience. You can't target everyone, because if you're targeting everyone, you are targeting no one. So we need a specific, singular goal for each of these pages. They need to have creative content that is conversion focused. And this sounds familiar.
Yes, it sounds familiar because we just had this on the slide about SEO. And that's the thing about algorithms. They are trying to give visitors the best experience. And so the same things that make a really good SEO effort are the same things that make a good landing page for a person experiencing it.
And there's a bit of a rule of thumb that Google has published to help determine if your content is good. And it is EEAT, because everybody has to eat. They stand for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. So looking through this list, you can probably see a couple of examples. Maybe you can think of a couple examples of content that you can make that fall under this umbrella. And the reason that this is structured this way, and the reason that we're talking about it, is because sometimes SEO and website design gets a little bogged down with tricks and little sneaky ways to succeed. But particularly with this morning's update is Google and similar search providers are going to focus on pushing the best content. And even if you have a little trick that works today, it isn't necessarily going to work tomorrow. And in fact, Google is saying, by giving people these guidelines, that you have to be making good content, and that is what's going to get rewarded.
So in the next few slides, we're going to break down what should be in a landing page. So that very top first section that loads is called the hero section. And in there, you should be answering 3 questions. What is this? Is this for me? And what do I do next? These are the questions the visitor is asking themselves. So the what is this? Clearly state your offer, your value position. Like why is this awesome? Why should they care? Is it for me? Now, this is where you really need to know your audience and make sure that it's relevant to who you're trying to target. And then next is including a strong call to action, because if you don't give them that step what to do next, you could lose people. You also get bonus points for being consistent with your branding and having really clear images.
So let's talk about these calls to action. A CTA, a call to action or CTA, is a guide for where your users are supposed to be going. They need to be clear, they need to be concise, and they need to be consistent. And they're always focused on getting that conversion. So you might have a button that says click here for this. That's fine. That's a little generic. But there's a lot of things that you can do with your CTAs that can really help inform a customer and convince a customer that they want to continue down this path. Maybe offering something that you're able to give away for free. Click here for a free consultation, or sign up for a free consultation, or book a free consultation meeting. And we're talking about consulting a lot, but I guess that's the example we're going on.
Yeah.
And your CTAs can bring people to a lot of different places: donation pages, contact forms, e-stores. There's really no limit. You just need to remember that this is the stepping stone in getting them to where you want them to go.
Yeah, and so it's very important with your call to actions. You really should not have more than 2 call to actions. If you have too many, it's going to confuse them. Remember, it's about creating a simple, clear goal. You are trying to get them to the action that you want, to get them to convert to a customer, to make a purchase. If you start to feel that you want to do too many things at once, you need to consider what's the highest priority, potentially create a different landing page that's targeted towards that action. But if you try to do too much at the top there, you're going to lose everyone. So make sure you're very clear with what your goal is for the page.
The next thing we're looking at is trust signals. And these are right next to the call to action for a reason. These highlight existing maybe partnerships that you have. Maybe they show accreditations or certifications that you've gotten. And they also develop your search authority, because the more that Google sees that you are good at what you do, and that you're offering good content, the more they want to support your website. So how do you know what a good trust signal is? Well, it's anything that your prospects are going to recognize. And it doesn't just have to be a picture of a logo. This can be a testimonial that you've received, maybe a video testimonial that you've received, right? We've talked about accreditations or certifications that you've gotten. And we want to make sure that you're highlighting the best that you have to offer. Now, I will also say, be honest.
Yeah.
An example that we talked about earlier today was if you put up a poster at a McDonald's, maybe don't put the McDonald's logo on your website, because that doesn't really seem like you've done a lot of work with that, even though you're making it seem that way.
Another great trust signal as well is if you have a lot of great reviews on Google, there are integrated plugins that are really easy to set up and put onto your website that can actually just live refresh and have your Google rating show right on your page. And that is a huge trust signal. All right, getting into key messaging. So this is your chance to use some of that keyword research that you did before you started. Ensure that you aren't using too many keywords all at once. The sentence has to flow and make sense as a person's reading it. Identify that single goal again and make sure you're prioritizing your quality and consistency in your message. Everything should flow and make sense, and you're not trying to pull in too many things at once or a bunch of keywords all in one go. But this is your chance to put in that great content that can help you rank. Chris?
Do you need one? Yes. There are so many use cases for building out a targeted landing page on your website. It can be an event, it can be a new product, it can be a new service. Maybe you're highlighting a product or service that you already have that's not doing so well. This is always going to do better than just hiding it on a page that already exists.
Yeah.
You're not going to be punished by Google for making your website a little bit wider. In fact, Google wants to make sure that they're able to direct people to a page that's actually serving the questions and answers that they have.
Yeah. So I know we've drilled this in quite a few times, but keeping it to a single clear message and goal increases your chance of conversion because they're landing on that page because they search for specific things that's directly about this one point. So in short, a clear message equals action. All right, so we're getting into the last subject of our presentation, and that is automating lead intake. So this is about how you can give your website to do a little bit more of the work than possibly what you've been doing now, and give you a little bit more time back. So I want to talk about the power of forms and intake forms. So what happens when someone's trying to engage with your business and you need to have a meeting about it? Sometimes, and this has happened to us in the past, is someone says, oh, I'm interested in your business. Then you have to have a call, and then it's really like a precursor call that you have to interview. And even at the end, say budget is one of those things that commonly comes to the end, you might find out that where your services start is not even where their budget is ready to meet. Or you might find that their budget's very large and you misunderstood the ask in the beginning. So it's always great to get all the information, have them think about it. So we use intake forms. We generally have a nice relationship starter touch point, and then we would direct them into a longer intake form. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a more simplified contact form on your website, because that can create a lot of advantages for you. Like they can capture some quick key info. You can have an auto reply built in with your form. And if you can imagine, someone sends you an email and you are in meetings all day or the next day and you can't get back to them for 3 days, that is a negative experience for someone. So if they're filling out a contact form and getting an automatic reply that says, thank you, we received your message, someone will get back to you and set expectation time frame, 24, 48 hours, you're already creating a positive communication and expectation. You can create fields that have ranges. So for example, in that budget, when I mentioned about budget, you can say a budget's up to a certain amount of money and then create different ranges so you can see where the project may fall. And it might even help you how many people or who to bring in on your meetings when you are having that call. Information to pre-qualify customers. And again, and that might be, the common one is budget. If they aren't ready to put money on the services that you're offering, it might be a quick way to for them to understand what they're getting into and then be valuable for your time. One of great advantages though as well is having forms feed into your CRM, and you can do, or just directly into your inbox. We've had numerous customers load their HubSpot CRM forms right onto the website. So what that does is a client or a potential customer fills out the form, it automatically goes into their platform that they use to manage customer relations, and they're able to run through the flow of automation that they have in HubSpot. And this really streamlines the process for a lot of companies. Another thing as well is spam. If you put your email on your website, there's a high probability it will get scanned and put on a list for spammers. So I don't know if you've noticed the increase in getting something in your business inbox of, do you want 10 to 15 leads a day? Contact me for this. That's from your email getting scanned and put on a spam list. When you use a form instead of broadcasting your email, you can put a CAPTCHA right on the form, and that prevents auto spammers from loading into your website.
Now, just to maybe reiterate again on this, each page and each form should be serving a different purpose. So your contact form, your lead intake form, your support form, these are all different. You can't have one that does all of them. You're going to lose people. A new lead might show up on your site and see 25 fields that they have to fill out and leave. You can build landing pages for these specific things and make sure that the navigation for them is in spots that make sense. So your support and your contact should be separate. And maybe in that auto reply, when people first contact you, is a link to the page where they can fill out the bigger form, just so it's not being seen right away by leads who aren't ready to fill out, a massive essay on what they're looking for.
Yep, for sure. Okay, next up, scheduling software. And this can be embedded right on your site. And there's actually free options. This example of a screen grab is from Calendly. It's one I use. I don't pay for it. And what this prevents for you is the endless back and forth. And I'm sure we've all been there where someone wants to meet, then you send 3 dates. You have to look in your calendar, send 3 dates and times of when you can meet. They can't make it. They send it back, and then you have to check. The best thing about scheduling software is you can get it to link with your calendar, and you can get to set the times that you are able to hold meetings, and they can do something as go on a page or click on a link in your signature, and they're able to find a time that works for them that is already automated with your calendar that works for you. And it just saves a lot of back and forth and time for you. It gives you real-time availability, automated confirmation. It can syncs with your calendar, and it can send reminders to them as well. So really helping reduce no-shows and admits. All right, and one of the final things we want to talk about is email collection. So a website visitor may drop on your site and then leave, and you've missed the opportunity to potentially continue your connection with them. Maybe they weren't ready to make a purchase, but they were curious and they did want to stay in touch. Having an opportunity for them to leave their email gives you permission to continue the conversation through your email marketing. You can create automation so that the same startup emails go to every new sign up, so that you are able to onboard them on who your brand is, why it matters, and just keep them informed on whenever you do create an email that keeps them up to date on what's going on with your business, any new promos or tips or anything that you've learned. This is a great way to engage and build trust over time.
If you're running, into a little bit of trouble coming up with ideas for how to make these work, one of the first things that I would recommend doing is finding businesses in your industry that you recognize as being successful. And it's not stealing, it's just using the things that they've tested and they've seen work. So sign up for their email list. Do they send you something on your birthday? Do they send you something for holidays? Do they send you emails 10 times a day or once a week or once a month, right? All of this really, really hard data that they have and they've paid for, you can benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a fun fact, one of the top open rate subjects for email marketing is, oops, we made a mistake. And it's because people are curious. They naturally want to know, where did they mess up? And now it's actually become an intentional marketing piece. So if you've seen oops, you're like, ooh, I wonder what they did. It might not so much be an oops, but a marketing tactic now. Just a fun FYI. So that brings us to the end of our presentation, and we do hope there's some questions because we're excited to answer them. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll pop back on, and then if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much. That was really info packed. That was great. It's funny. That's why this is going to date me horribly. Okay, but like I first built a website and it was hosted on Tripod, which was a competitor to GeoCities at the time, and it had, the animated GIFs everywhere. It said this web page is under construction and auto-playing MIDI tunes and web rings. This is before Google was a thing. So yeah, the dark days. I think we've come a long way. I think what you said was literally don't do any of that. Okay. So no one's asked us any questions about whether or not they should have animated GIFs or auto-playing MIDI tunes. So I think we're past that. But we have gotten a lot of questions from the audience, so I'm going to get through as many of them as I can. First one here is to say, do you have any quick tips to drive traffic to your website? Like any quick and dirty ideas on like how to actually get people on your page in the first place? Anything you suggest?
There's a ton. This is something that we could probably do a whole other presentation on. But I would say maybe the Coles notes are each channel that you are advertising in can and should be driving traffic to not just your website, but to a specific landing page. So you're running ads on your social media. Those should be linking to a landing page. What are the ads for? Who are they for? And what information are you sharing? Brand activations are one that I'm particularly passionate about. Word of mouth is super strong, and going out to an event and giving people something with a QR code, maybe it's a pack of gum or a chocolate bar with a QR code. Again, you've built a landing page for it and you're getting those people to funnel through and capturing them in that moment.
And if I could add to anyone that has an existing website, you should have a Google Analytics tracker on your website, because one of the best thing you can do is build off of what you already know. So if you have Google Analytics installed, you can see where your traffic's already coming from. And if you start to notice consistent trends, like maybe you're coming from this one other website, maybe someone's referring you. Look at those efforts, because that's telling you something, and you can create more initiatives based on how that works. And you didn't have to do anything, but just look to see what was already working for you and capitalizing on it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for not launching into another webinar on that subject. But so quick tips, definitely useful, and it could be a topic of its own. The second question that's come in for us as well is actually about, I guess, the hot topic of last year, probably still the hot topic of this year as well, is AI. Are there any AI tools that you would recommend in terms of building a website, driving traffic to a website, building engagement? Is there anything that's been proven useful or not?
I think, can we start with a cautionary tale about?
That's the first thing I was going to say.
Please, yeah.
So AI is wonderful. ChatGPT, all those things are great sources for how you can really get some ideation, how you can write content, but you must know your content. You cannot trust AI for facts. There's tons of warnings out there that say they aren't always guaranteed to be factual. You need to make sure that you are using it, but you are still behind the wheel. It is not driving your content, it is not dictating your content, but yes, it can increase your productivity, it can increase your efficiency, but you need to be the master of the content and know if something's factual or not. There's a few ways that you can use it. I need ideas on creating content for this. See it, make sure you know your audience and you are picking ones that are relevant. And then when you're like, I would like to write this about these things, when you're reading through it, make sure it is in fact true, whether by doing your own research or by you being an expert in what you know your business to be, make sure that that's correct.
One thing that LLMs are very, very talented at is writing code. And if you are looking for a solution, say to, you have an element that you wanted to have sticky in the header and then you wanted it to disappear after a certain scrolling amount. You can ask most LLMs and they will give you decent code to have this effect.
You define LLM?
A learning language module. I don't like just saying ChatGPT because it's the big one, but I mean, it's the Coca-Cola and there's lots of great sodas out there, right? I would still recommend, if you're not a developer, don't get too deep into the development side of things. You're very likely to break something, even just by having a missing semicolon or an extra space in the wrong spot. But using ChatGPT or a similar program to help solve some coding problems, if you're starting to get into HTML and CSS, is a fantastic avenue to explore.
Okay, great. I always think like using AI is like asking a small child to wash the dishes. Like it can do it and it can save you some time, but you probably want to check the dishes are actually clean before
Yes.
you use them again.
Yeah,
Right?
that's an excellent way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. Next question came in. This was when you were talking about the SEO building, like earlier on in the presentation, and the guest asked, "What does when you said avoid anecdotal experience? Could you shed a bit more light on that? What was that referring to?"
Yes. So we really, really value data. You are one of the, as a business owner, I assume most of you are one of the most experienced people in your business. That does not mean your industry. And the decisions that you make based on data need to come from the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are running a burger restaurant and you are looking at, putting together some creative that's going to drive people to a landing page for your karaoke event at your burger restaurant, and you remember that a 25-year-old man came in and said, "I love karaoke. I would love to come to karaoke at your burger restaurant." That's one guy. And you can't build a whole campaign and all this media around this one guy that came into your burger restaurant and said he wanted karaoke. You need to find data that tells you what people in your area want, what your target market wants, and how the things that you're looking at building actually fit into real hard facts.
And it's hard because some of those experiences can be emotional experience when something happened and you're like, I need to act, or I need to change this, whether it was a positive or a negative experience someone had with your brand. You just need to be careful by making really big efforts and business decisions when it's based off of just a few instances.
And that's also not just limited to the whole marketing scope, but we've had somebody with poor eyesight ask for the font on their website to be doubled and then tripled and then quadrupled until the page was inaccessible to anyone. And there are other solutions that you can explore to help cater to these few people with specific needs, but you can't make big sweeping decisions on your website or your business as a whole based on what one or two people ask for.
Yeah. And there's easy way in that instance, there's different ways we can do it besides making the whole website that big. We would just need to make sure that we have accessibility tools available.
Yes.
Right. I think that's a good rule for anything, like a lot of things besides web design as well. Like I'm political science is my background, and so we say in the social sciences, when you have an anecdote, n equals 1, right? N being the number of people in your study, so you did a study of one person essentially, and that does not tell you anything about the population. So I think it's a good rule, not just in your website, but make sure you are seeing a trend or an overall demand for something rather than one person told me this, right?
Yep.
Okay. The next question that came in as well is asked how is having multiple targeted landing pages different than having one and then separate pages, or how do they relate to the primary landing page? So I guess they're asking there about if you're having multiple landing pages, how does that relate to your primary website?
We're using the term landing page to talk about how we think about the pages, but functionally, at the end of the day, it's just another page on your website. You're just recognizing that might be the first place that people go.
Right.
And with any business, you don't just have one monolithic kind of customer. And Google also doesn't want to send everybody to one spot. Google knows that the entire human, everyone, has a ton of different needs, and your business probably solves a ton of different problems.
Yeah.
So you need to find what those different things are that you're offering, and then give people places to go.
Yeah, and to build off that, so landing pages can help people searching from Google land directly where they need to go. And then when it comes to maybe someone type directly into URL, you decide how it fits in. So if this is about a specific service, there is no issue with creating a services page that has a little snippet that this service exists, and they can click and go to that landing page. It's really about creating logical flow for your people entering your website, say through your homepage, and then also making sure that there is one goal, one vision for that specific need, whether they come from Google directly to that page, or they go through a natural consumer experience flow by going the front way through your website.
To complicate things even more, there is another use case for the term landing page, and this is where we're talking about measuring traffic on ads, specifically for ads. So if you have a service that you're advertising and you set up a page that people travel through the ad to get to, you can make sure by not indexing the page on search engines, doing a couple things in the back end, that you are only having traffic from those ads go to these pages. And if you have 10 identical pages, but each one is connected to 10 different ads, you can test which ads are succeeding. Even though the information and the customer experience isn't different, you're going to get better data knowing that the commercial with the guy with the blue shirt isn't doing as well as the commercial with the lady with a red hat or whatever.
Okay, it's interesting. So it's sort of about assuming that you might think everyone who comes into your website is going to go through your homepage, but they won't, right? They'll come in for any different subpages. So I guess the question is, if they're coming in for a subpage and that is the first interaction they ever have with your company's website, would that be okay? And how do you build that landing page around that idea, right? Okay. Next question that came in is what is a budget-friendly intake form and Google rating plugin options for your landing page? And what is the name of your software for scheduling? So I don't think we're asking you to endorse any particular product here, but if you have some examples of the Google rating plugins you were talking about or the scheduling software, just to give people some pointers on like what is good or what is even if there's a market dominant one right now that they should look at first.
Yeah, absolutely. So we build in WordPress. So is it a Google plugin? Is it by Google?
Most of the Google plugins that we use are first party. I'm not a huge fan of using things from third-party devs unless I have actually seen a proven track record that they're writing good code and supporting their product. But just as a rule of thumb, when you are looking for plugins, you can see how many sites and in some cases, what other sites are using these same plugins. So I would recommend for anything that you're trying to solve, take a look at the whole list. And if it's being used by a grand total of 15 websites, don't even look at it.
Most of our plugins have been used by over 10,000 people.
1,000 million, like
they're a company that you can see is actively on their plugin managers. To jump over to my booking software, the free version I use is called Calendly. And I use Google Calendar, and that syncs right with my Google Calendar. And I also have that link in my signature. I just says book a meeting with me. And that has, as a person who probably I think in the company had the most meetings last year, that saved me a ton of time. Like it was noticeable, and I am very grateful for Calendly.
All right, great. I think you might be getting some, actually. The next question is asking if you can share your contact information, because this guy wants to talk with you further about specific projects. I think I've actually answered that one for you, which is to say, yes, of course, we will gladly provide a Giant Cheese contact information to anyone in chat. And if you're looking to get in touch with them, then we can certainly make that connection, or they can reach out to you directly and we can put that info in the chat as well. The next question asks, would you recommend text campaigns? I think that's referring to SMS, the cell phone campaigns. If it's not, then hopefully the guest can correct me in the chat and ask a different question. But let's assume it's text messages. Was that something you'd recommend?
It would depend. It would depend who the audience is, the business, what type of things. Like I think it's great for clothing apparel stores when they're having sales and they offer coupons. If you have a product that goes on promo, or that you can bring people in, like as a mom of 2 children, I was subscribed to Once Upon a Child text campaign, and they used to send me things, and it was very valuable to me. You do get sick of it eventually, and now with a lot of spam nowadays, you kind of tend to be you have to be mindful and measure your budget. What is the priority? Where are the core initiatives? But it comes down to knowing your audience. Who is it specifically for, and then seeing if text makes sense. If you're an older demographic, I don't know if that would make sense.
And the operative word there that I heard from you, Jess, was subscribe. Don't buy a list of phone numbers and just start blasting them with information. One question that you can ask yourself quite often about a lot of these tactics and these potentially invasive tactics is, would I like it? I don't like pop-ups. And I don't recommend pop-ups to any of our clients. And the same might be for text campaigns. Do I like when a politician texts me? Maybe. Do I like when a fast food restaurant texts me? Maybe. Like there's different cases for different cases, but you should always ask yourself and then ask your audience.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you. Next question is, do you have a magic number you'd recommend for maximum pages on a website, maximum menu items, maximum clicks to find deeper details on a topic? So is there a point at which I think they're asking the website is too cluttered? Like how much information is too much information? How many links are too many links?
Your website can't be too full. There can't be too much information, but the navigation can be too cluttered.
Yes.
I would say 3 to 5 items in the top nav. But this is super case by case. We can probably talk about some examples.
Yeah, well, blog pieces are considered a page, and you should be continuing to develop content. But then when you get so many, you should start to categorize them. So it's really about how you organize, like you said, your information. You have to be mindful of how many images that you have in those certain things and the load speed that's impacting it. So you need to do things in a way that it is optimized and ensuring that you're not impacting the things that rank. But no, the more content, the better. I wouldn't have a specific number in mind, but you have to be aware of the amount of content that you're putting on, how heavy of a load is it, and then the customer experience. You need to make sure that the UX on your website makes sense, it flows, and it's not overwhelming to people, and that's the key.
So for your top nav, again, this is like just a bar at the top that says the menu and where people are going. Try and think of the 3 main places that people might go. For example, you are a service-based industry, you might have a button for the list of services. Maybe there's a drop down that has a couple of them, but even then, we're starting to get a little cluttered if you have a lot of services. An about us page and a contact, CTA. Like the lighter the better, as long as you know that from the get-go, people can get to where they need to go. That's what matters.
Okay, thank you. Next question. This is more of a comment, but I think it leads to something here, and it's pertaining to the last but one question we were talking about the text messages, and they said that they were recently added to a Google group without their knowledge, and it's kind of unsettling, I guess, when that happens. And I think it sort of falls across the line of shady business practices, right? So maybe we can ask on this, like you already mentioned pop-ups on a website as being something that you advise people to avoid. Are there any other practices in web design like that where you'd say this is probably going to be received like as spam or not taken well? I wouldn't do that. Like any quick advice on that?
I would say any of those forms that we discussed, do not include them into your marketing collateral. That said, please add an opt-in to email communication. CASL, CASL, Canada Anti-Spam Law, has very major consequences when you are sending marketing content without consent, and that can lead up to fines per email. So you need to make sure that these people are giving informed consent on what receiving marketing materials. There is a rule that if they contacted you regarding business, you can still email them up to 6 months after that initial content, but the content needs to be business related and not marketing or promoting or trying to grab them in as a customer. That's a very major thing that can have very major consequences for a business.
I'll also circle back to EEAT, which is Google's guidelines for good content. You need to focus on your experience, your expertise, your authority, and your trust. And if you're making any content that you don't have expertise in, any content that you don't have the authority in, that's where we also start to really get into some trouble. Mm-hmm. Being considerate of the consequences of just publishing junk can sometimes have a really negative effect on your audience. Will have a very negative effect on your audience.
That's great. Thank you. We did put the link to the CASL legislation in the chat as well, so check that out if you're unsure of the rules. It's, yeah, I know it's certainly annoying. I seem to get constant emails and text messages. Usually these days it's about my package is ready for pickup. That seems to be the most common one, but they shift every few months. But don't be that guy, I think is the message. Don't stay within the law, and don't be annoying to people. Next question we have is, in retail, how many emails a week would you suggest to send? Which I think is building on that theme of like, okay, how you want to be informative, but you also don't want to cross the boundary to be annoying. So what is a good rule of thumb of how many emails do you want to send out? Yeah,
and there's even better times to send types of things. So I think the industry, still Tuesday, Thursday afternoon,
Tuesday, Thursday morning,
Tuesday, Thursday morning.
just before 9 a.m. roughly.
And that's when you're likely to have the higher engagement with your email content. And you have to, it's gauging whether or not you can still produce quality content. If you're putting out 7 emails a day, is it quality? I don't know. Is it too repetitive? You need to make sure that you have the mix of content that your audience is interested in. But to me, if you do it too much, like you can see when people unsubscribe, one of the first reasons why they say is like, I receive too many of these. So you do have to be mindful on what's tolerable. I think the 2 to 3 week is nice, but again, you got to know your audience, and maybe they want content every day. It depends the type of content you're putting out, who your audience is, but it is a real thing that if you start sending too many and all they're seeing is you and they can't keep up with the content, you're likely to get unsubscribed.
Yeah, it's very industry and audience specific, and this is another great opportunity for you to look at people in your industry who are doing great. If you are, I will also ask you to take a close look at, if you are a business in retail, what other businesses that are selling the same product as you, the same kind of product? You know, a grocery store might be sending out flyers a couple times a week on deals on produce and different meats. But if you're selling shoes, I don't think you have a new deal on shoes every 2 days. Maybe you do. I'm not a shoe salesman, but it's different. It's very industry specific, and you should probably be looking at your data first.
Yes, your data will tell you as well. If you are sending, say, 7 emails, you'll see which ones, what their open rates are, there's like, if you're doing it already, you're probably doing it in a platform that has that data available to you. It's valuable. Look at it, learn from it, and and try different things too. If you're not sending out on Tuesday, Thursday morning, maybe take one of those emails and try it and see if you get an increased open rate.
Well, that's interesting. Right? So to try it and see what happens. If you get too many unsubscriptions, you're probably sending too many. Yeah, that's a new idea. And I think I like what you said earlier, Chris, as well, which is basically ask yourself, would I like this? You know, if it wasn't my company, if this is a completely different company, would I be happy with this level of engagement? So I think that's a good thing to ask as well.
Well, if I was getting 3 a day from Old Navy, that probably even lasted like 6 months before I had the guts to unsubscribe. But 3 a day for 6 months, it was insane.
That's dedication, at least. Like Old Navy really wants you to come down and buy something from them. Changing topics again, as we're getting sort of down this rabbit hole of how much and how often to send. But I want to ask, like, what are the biggest mistakes I would ask that you've seen when businesses make when they're designing a website? What are they like? Some real horror stories that you've seen, perhaps, or some really common mistakes where you think like, okay, you got to stop doing that. What are the biggest ones?
Okay, the biggest one right now that like we're feeling, and like we have some great clients, and then they come over, and then they are not adjusting for different screen breaks and screen sizes, and it's even happened to the point that like, it looks great on one screen, and then you go to like, say, a 27-inch screen to a 13-inch screen, because people have different device sizes, and the call to action, everything else is missing, and you're just seeing the top half of an image, and it makes no sense because it wasn't adjusted properly. I've even been on a website on mobile, and all their sticky headers and stuff have taken up the top half of my phone, and I am scrolling on a little like section. You need to make sure that you're optimizing for different size devices and screen break sizes, because depending on your mix of how people are jumping in on your site and what device, you can be creating unknowingly a really terrible experience because you've only checked on your device.
And so, okay, so mobile devices. That's interesting. It leads me to my next question, actually, which is how many what percentage of users are actually on mobile these days? And I suspect here your answer is either going to be like, it depends, or it'll be like, it's 32.4%. But it's, like, do we have any idea like how many visitors you should expect to be using mobile? And when it comes to that as well, like if you do have a high percentage of mobile users, what are some of the, other than everything being too big, what are some of the pitfalls in designing a mobile friendly site? Like, do you need to build a separate site, or can it be, are there ways to make your existing site like really mobile friendly, or what are the top ways, I would say?
It's about half. It's about
Okay.
half of your traffic. Granted, yeah, like you guessed, it depends.
Yeah.
Typically, what we're seeing is consumer-facing businesses have slightly higher mobile users, especially like the retail impulse purchases, you're buying off Temu kind of stuff, is a little bit higher than half, and then the B2B stuff is a little bit less than half.
Yeah, if it's a benefit in platform for people to enter their benefits, like have you heard the term that's a desktop type purchase or desktop type thing? Like certain things that are geared towards that might be a little bit more cumbersome. Like that obviously is going to trend to a little bit more of a desktop. But what we're seeing obviously is more like when you look at the pie chart that you see a lot more like it's about halved, but it does trend to the mobile side. And don't forget your older demographics and tablets. So we do notice when it's targeted to an older demographic that we are seeing a bigger slice of the pie in what would be considered tablet size.
Tablets are also an interesting one because with the, thousands of different laptop style products that are out, some of them are at a tablet breakpoint. Even some phones have large enough screens that when they're in landscape, it's also a tablet breakpoint. It's all based on very specific values of the number of pixels on the screen. You need to not just be considerate of, okay, I've designed two versions of my site, big size and small size, because that's not how they exist. There's an infinite, well, I mean, roughly like 1,200, I guess, versions of your website between the smallest breakpoint, which I think is 467 pixels, and the largest breakpoint, which is anything over 1,024, roughly. There's a lot. So you need to be accounting for everything in the spectrum instead of just big and small.
Yeah, and to answer your question, you don't need a different mobile website unless you have a bunch of different content. Like when all of our sites really in the past year we've built have just been mobile optimized. But that means we create a mobile menu instead of like the desktop menu going over. We might omit certain sections, or like one of our clients, they have a list of services and there's a picture for all their services, but they really insisted in having all the services listed. So in order to make the mobile experience better so that they can get the content and get to where they need, I just kept the title and a brief description and created a new section for that, just because it's a better experience instead of scrolling for 10 years because on desktop it's stacked.
Yeah, one common pitfall is expecting the mobile experience to be the same as the desktop experience. It's a completely different device and sometimes a completely different user. The experience has to be different. The use case is different. So this might mean maybe not rebuilding the whole site, but like just mentioned, rethinking the way that certain elements are working so that they're actually functioning for the user's best experience.
Okay, thank you. I think I've got time for one more question. So I'm going to ask this one because I think it might be a yes/no answer. And I think it's referring back to the days like 10, 15 years ago when everyone had a live journal and blogging was the hot thing. And it's to essentially ask, like, is there any role for blogging to play like in driving engagement with a website? Like, would anyone want to hear like your thoughts just like as a blog post, or is that gone now?
It's a little more complicated than that.
The answer, yes.
Yeah.
And we will elaborate.
So blog as a term maybe is fallen out of favor, but there's the function of it, which is just putting more content on your site, is absolutely what most people are doing for their search engine optimization.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need to be your individual personal thoughts. That's actually what social media is for now. But you can be talking about trends in the industry. You can be doing educational content. You can put up a blog that's actually a client testimonial for people to land on. There's a tremendous breadth of things that you can do with this blog style page, even though it's not, the early 2000s version of today I went to the whatever kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to add on this and to me, there's two kind of paths you can take with blog, and then they can meet in the middle. One is the SEO side of things. So if you've got your keyword research and you can see you're going to target some niche things, writing a piece that's capturing that content, and really it will help you because people can come in through that way. On the branding side, if you are positioning yourself as an authority figure and you have information walkthroughs, you're positioning yourself as an expert, and that helps you for your brand image and how others perceive you, especially if that's an important core value or something that you are doing is you're a trustworthy expert in the field. Blogs are extremely valuable, especially when the information's organized. So if it is a walkthrough list on how to do something, or it's a certain topic on a bunch of topics on a certain subject matter, just even when you are writing to be an authority, please look at what you want to be, what are people searching for that you want them to land there, and make sure that you're answering those questions. Oh, and something to add, SEO, create an FAQ, put it wherever is relevant on your website. But if you can think of all the questions someone might have asked you, people probably have already asked you these questions. They might be searching on their search engine for it, and you're answering questions that they are searching for is helpful for SEO.
Okay, great.
If I can also jump in and expand on that just a little bit.
Just a little bit. We're 1 minute past.
Very, very quick. Any content that you're putting on your blog, you can also repurpose in other places. So if you have a social channel, finding those valuable pieces, putting them up on LinkedIn, Instagram, on your email newsletter, it doesn't have to die in one spot. It can live.
Okay, thank you. Well, unfortunately, we ran out of time before we ran out of questions. But if you do have more questions for Chris and Jess, I want to let you know that they're actually going to be a co-host of our next Business After 5. So if you have more questions, come out there and chat to them directly. The link to register is in the chat there. Or, of course, get in touch with them directly as well. We put that contact information in the chat. Thank you so much again for joining us today and answering all those questions and talking about making a website that works for you. And thanks once again to YMCA of Niagara for making this whole thing possible. Thank you so much for joining us, to all our guests. If you have a topic idea or speakers that you'd like us to consider for a future Lunch and Learn in 2025, please feel free to get in touch and we'll see if we can make it happen. That's it. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.